Hello, my name is Jennifer Martinez, and this is my presentation on understanding literacy. Go through a little bit of the guided questions and the process and purpose of reading. My understanding of that is that the process of reading involves understanding words and developing fluency to read those words, and then building vocabulary and comprehension. And overall, I believe the purpose of reading is really to gain knowledge. I mean, that is really why we read, is to get information. Um, I think some fringe benefits of that is that it teaches us to think critically about things. And then obviously, some people just enjoy reading because it's an art. And it truly is kind of fascinating how much our world is just it involves reading, and how critical it is. I think it's something that we definitely take for granted that we don't really think about. The role of morphology and contextual analysis on vocabulary is that my understanding of morphological awareness is to understand how words work, like the beginnings and endings of words, and then how students break those words down. And then the way I understand contextual analysis is context clues. I mean, we have learned that. We tell our students that all the time. And that's something that through the years we've learned, even as students ourselves, is looking within a text to try to figure out and understand what we're reading. Some evidence based practices for teaching phonemic awareness to English learners. Through some of my SEI classes I've taken through my district, I've learned that explicit direct instruction is so important, and using multisensory activities, visuals, things on students' desks are really helpful. And then obviously modeling, guided practice, scaffolding, all of those really important things really would help build that phonemic awareness to English language learners. And then talking about how their home language can be utilized to support and strengthen development of foundational phonics in English. Again, in my SEI classes, I learned how they can correlate like the students learning to learning of their native language, and try to kind of draw similarities between the phonics of their original language to English language. And that is truly like a concept that I don't fully understand because I teach math. So that is kind of foreign, for lack of a better word. But overall, I think that's kind of like a really fascinating concept that I would want to know more information about. And then moving on to the necessary components to achieve effective comprehension, including well developed language, multiple high order thinking processes, and self correction. I think the thing that stands out most to me is the idea of self correction. And that is like when we're reading, we correct ourselves. I mean, I think back to the times as a student myself where we did read alouds, which can sometimes be frightening, but having to read out loud and hear ourselves read, that strategy helps us to monitor and to reflect upon what we're saying. And then within reading, those higher order thinking processes that I think about that are so emphasized. I teach fifth grade, especially in the ELA standards, which I don't teach, but like predicting, summarizing, inferring, and analyzing, and how important those are for comprehension. And then touching on well developed language skills help readers understand, truly understand the ideas and context within a text. Some evidence based practices that can be utilized to improve comprehension in English learners, including those with reading difficulties and dyslexia. I think, again, I mean, evidence based practices are woven throughout. Um, throughout all types of learning in schools, in all classrooms, in all grade levels, but especially when it comes to those with disabilities. I mean, going back to just that concept of explicit instruction and how key that is in understanding keywords and sentence meanings within text. And then also another evidence-based practice is like the structured literacy, how important that is. At our school, we utilize something called 95%. I taught that when I was in first grade, and how that is such a crucial foundation for students, and how breaking down the that phonic style learning could be especially helpful for students with learning disabilities or dyslexia. And then also just the tried and true small group or one-on-one instruction is just always helpful for those students that struggle um, with anything, is particularly with language development, is so key, especially in those early years of learning. So that is my blog